Well, hello everyone. Thank you for coming to this presentation today. We're going to talk about GIS innovation on campuses. And I'm stealing a word from Kristen earlier that we're trying to inspire you to think about campuses outside of outside of colleges and universities. So airports, ports, power plants, hospitals. When you think of campuses, there are tons of different types of campuses, and Kristen's going to touch on that a bit later. So my name's Scott Howell. I'm with KCI. I've been there for a little over a year and a half. I'm on the project management business development side, and I'll let Kristen introduce herself.
I'm Kristen Johnston. I've been with KCI for about 2 years. I am the business lead for the state of North Carolina. KCI is, not to steal Scott's thunder, but KCI is not new to North Carolina, but our geospatial technology innovation group is. So getting out there telling people who we are, sharing. So I do about half my time for business development and then half my time on project work.
Thank you. So briefly, we're going to do an overview of what campus GIS looks like, different types of GIS that you might find on campuses, the interaction between local municipalities and organizations, which really is, I think, the primary part of this presentation, is how communication can be improved between those organizations. And then we'll have questions, open dialogue, and ask you for any of the experiences you have in this space, because if you think about where you work, your city, your county, you have some sort of campus there in all likelihood, whatever that might be. So a little bit about KCI. This is our one sales slide. We've got, this says 2,100 owners, but we just acquired a firm with like 300 people, so we're like at 2,400. We've got over 60 offices. We've got technology folks in, I believe it's 22 states. We have offices in 18 states plus DC. We are 100% employee owned, so your project means a lot to us because it affects how we're compensated in the long run. Founded in 1955. I think the most important thing here is that we're ISO certified, 9001.
We've got 7 offices now across the state. Our largest in the company and also in North Carolina is our Raleigh office, but we have offices in Wilmington, Asheville, Greensboro, 2 in the Charlotte area, and then 1 down in the Lumberton, Robeson County area.
So we have a bunch of partners. Obviously our clients are our partners. We partner with other consulting firms, construction firms, survey firms, but these are our official partnerships, if you will. So any of you that were here for the last presentation saw CityWorks, technically Trimble now, but so we're a partner with them. We use their asset management and their land management solutions. We're a silver partner with Esri. We're partners with Evolve. If you've not heard of Evolve, I would highly encourage you to look at their software. It's for electronic plan review. So similar to, if some of you have used Bluebeam, very similar concept, integrates with the Esri suite. Excuse me. And then Agile Assets and Safe Software, who most of you probably know, has a feature manipulation engine.
All right, so what is Campus GIS? Well, nothing super fancy here. It's GIS at a campus. But you know, like any other municipality, city, county, you know, using GIS to manage the spatial data. So as Scott said earlier, when you think of campus, we kind of automatically go to a college or university. That's just kind of our default. But there are lots of different types of campuses, and I wanted to give you some examples of that. So of course, education, that's your college, university, higher ed. It could also be a tech school. I know Wake Tech, for example, has multiple campuses around the county. It also could be your K through 12, public or private schools. In the healthcare space, kind of the default is hospitals, but it could also be medical parks. In transportation and logistics, those are things like airports, ports, rail terminals or rail stations. In the corporate world, you're thinking about manufacturing facilities, large or smaller scale. Also energy-related facilities, maybe solar farm, an oil refinery. In the retail and commercial area, malls, those traditional malls or outlet malls or shopping complexes. If you're thinking about government, and really government and or military, those might be your bases. And if you think about a base, not only is it the training, but it might have an airport component as well as a housing component. In the research and innovation space, if you think about the Research Triangle Park, RTP, all of the corporate campuses there, your bio, your pharmaceutical, tech companies are their own little campuses. In the entertainment space, these are things like casinos, theme parks, large sports complexes, and parks, outdoor recreation. In the utility infrastructure space, these are things like your wastewater treatment plants or water treatment facilities, utility-based infrastructure. In the residential space, this could be like, think of your senior living communities or assisted living communities. It could be large apartment complexes or even single-family housing developments that have a shared amenities, walking trails, swimming pools, things like that. And then last but not least, faith-based campuses. So think churches or retreat facilities. So when we think about like municipal versus kind of campus scope, municipal is that broader scale, more public infrastructure based, public services, whereas campus is more of the localized and or specialized system. And notice I didn't say small, because size is not necessarily a factor. So we're gonna play a little game, interactive here. So who knows what is the largest college university campus by acreage in North Carolina? I'll give you a hint, it's around 8,700 acres. State's a guess? Chapel Hill? Close? It's Duke University. All right, who is second with 2099? We heard it just a minute ago. State, that's right. And then what college university has the most acreage in the United States? It's a 27,000 acre campus. You might need to know it if you're from Virginia.
Yeah,
I don't know.
is anyone from Georgia?
Georgia, sorry.
All right.
It's Berry College, and look at this campus. Straight out of Europe. Next slide. All right, does anyone know what the largest shopping mall in our state is? What? Charlotte, some say Charlotte? Yeah, South Park in Charlotte. All right, does anyone know what the largest state park is? It's in Burke County. South Mountains.
I jumped the gun there, sorry.
All right, last one. Couple more. Does anyone know what is the largest non-college university campus in our state? Over 161,000 acres. Remember, think about campuses we talked about earlier. Close. It's Fort Bragg / Fort Liberty. Not sure what we're calling it these days. Fort Liberty. So, and last, we're going to bring it back a little local. What's the largest medical school in North Carolina? Hint local. You said it. Wake Forest Baptist. Yeah. So yeah, back to what I said. It's not necessarily about size, because you can have a campus that's very small. Maybe it's an acre or 2 acres, and you can have some campuses that are hundreds of thousands of acres.
Well, when we think about the Esri campus in Redlands, what they report is it's approximately only 25 acres, which is a lot smaller than I expected. Now, they may own more land, but their campus proper, they say about 25 acres.
All right, so diving in a little more, again, kind of that focus of a campus. We're going to talk a little bit about some of what campuses focus on in the way of airports. So my background is in airports. So They focus on security, obviously, operations, space management, and then asset management. So we'll walk through a couple examples. The next slide. So security-wise, obviously, well, most of us have been through airports, high security. There's designated areas both inside and outside of the buildings. They call that the AOA, or the sterile area, where you've been processed and screened. There's also data around fence lines to separate those areas. There's security cameras and everything that goes into the security component of airports. When you think about operations, you've got a lot of moving parts on airports. You've got airplanes, you've got the ground service equipment that services them, you've got operational equipment, you've got emergency response equipment like police and fire. When you're looking at operations of an airport, how is all that going to fit together? How are the airplanes actually going to fit around the different terminals? And then people movement. How are people going to move from one area to the other, from the parking garage or parking lots into the terminals and throughout the terminals? Next slide. Space management is a big one for campuses, especially airports. What type of space is it? Is it space related to airlines? Is it concessionaire space? Is it operational space like the gate room you sit in? Or is it mechanical-based space that runs the building? Is that space rentable? Is it going to make us some income? And then asset management. You're looking at pavement. So this is both airfield pavement, landside pavement like your roads, signage. Signage and wayfinding is huge. People need to know how to get to where they're going. Of course, buildings and the systems within those buildings, the fixtures, and the equipment. So we're going to dive a little deeper. These are some examples of GIS being used at campuses in recent history. So IoT sensors for real-time asset tracking. So thinking about things like medical equipment, carts in hospitals, where are they if they need to be, if they're where they need to be when they need to be there. Like I said, airport vehicles, and then building systems, all the sensors around building system energy efficiency stuff, especially HVAC systems. Next slide. I mentioned indoor mapping. This is a big one for emergency response, because it's one thing to call up and say, I'm at this address, but if the campus is that address, where in the campus are you? Are you in X building? Are you in XYZ room? Making sure that your rooms are labeled appropriately. And then, of course, having the apps associated with that for both internal potential emergency response use, but also public use, directing the public to your offices, your stores, where they can find services, to their gate for flying. Next slide. And then similar to building systems, your smart energy and sustainability management. So these are your occupancy based. And we've seen this, as we've done some demonstrations of this before, where you have sensors. If someone's in a room, the lights can be on, or they're heating or cooling that room or space, versus if no one's there, maybe it's floor-based or entity-based to help with efficiency.
So I'll just piggyback a little bit on what Kristen just talked about. So security and incident management, and you've probably all seen a presentation. Actually, if you has anyone seen a presentation on AI yet? Okay, I'm sure everyone will see one before it's over. So we feel like we had to mention that. So using AI for enhanced security monitoring, for you can read the bullets, unusual activity and predictive potential safety risks. I mean, we've been doing some of that for years with facial recognition systems, but they're getting more advanced now. You can track someone that may be a threat, may have put something in a trash can. Those types of things at the airport or at any port. So when you think of digital twins, and we've all seen presentations on digital twins over the last few years, we typically think about it from an asset management perspective. But now we're looking at it for simulating operational scenarios and then testing those disaster response strategies and adjusting plans based on the digital twin that's created for these types of scenarios. And then smart parking and traffic management. This could be used at any campus. Some places are already doing it. But when we think about real-time parking space availability, typically you see those in the newer garages where they'll have the sign that tells you how many spots are available. Loading zone monitoring, how are people coming in and out of your facility, whether it's rideshare, taxi, limousine, bus services, and tracking that and not just from a numeric perspective, but how often are they coming through and using technology to assess that. And then obviously intelligent transportation systems through IoT and sensor technology should be used on most campuses already. It's certainly being used by state DOTs, turnpike commissions, train systems such as Amtrak, et cetera.
And then our final example is, utility asset management, and wanted to highlight the machine learning for CCTV footage. And this is actually something that KCI has developed a model as a system, model as a service, MAAS. We have a bricks platform that will actually consume imagery, be it CCTV footage or snapshot imagery, and it can look at the asset and actually detect, is there a slump in the pipe? Is there a break in the pipe? Is something wrong with the pipe? So using that machine learning and AI to find issues with your assets.
All right, then, so some of the similarities, but what you see between, municipal and state government and federal for that matter, and campus is obviously all of your infrastructure, right? Everybody has their parcels mapped, so all of your land, how it's used, your zoning, how you serve the public and population. But again, a big part of this slide is to sort of stimulate your thinking about any campus that might be in your area and how you might share better, right? And it's a two-way street. So they may call the county that you work for and say, we really need a new snapshot of your utility data, but you may not ever call them and ask the same thing. So creating that collaboration between the campus environment and the government environment is the biggest part of this. And then managing and prioritizing data. So stakeholder involvement. I think you've probably all sat through a stakeholder meeting or else conducted one, but it is critical because you can't get to the 20-yard line and then they say, oh, that's not what I wanted. So you need to have solid requirements up front. Kristen does a lot of business development, so she could, or business analysis, so she can attest to that. So talk early and often, think of them first, so your counterpart, whether it's government or campus, and what are their current needs and pain points, and then understanding adjacent priorities. What do you both need that you maybe already have, but it's not solidified, it's not QC'd, or what don't you both have that you need, and how can you get that? And I had to throw in the Dilbert reference. So how can you collaborate? I jumped the gun here a couple slides ago. Find common goals. Talk about data governance. It's highly unlikely that if you work for a municipal agency and you have a college or an airport that you're going to have the similar schemas. So you'll have to do some sort of ETL process to put that together because there will be overlap. And then there's learning opportunities there. You can find out what they're doing and they can find out what you're doing and come up with great ideas out of that.
And so when you think about collaborating with the municipal and campuses in your area, how would you want to share, but also what would you want to share? Are you just thinking about the edges, where you touch, where you're adjacent? Is it just the roads? Is it just the utilities? Is it just the land components? Or is there more? Is there something deeper that would help both sides of the spectrum? What would your neighbor benefit from knowing, and what would you benefit from knowing from them? Considerations, obviously, and you're kind of in potentially two different sectors there. You've got security sensitive data and or proprietary data, so thinking about those. But really the goal is sharing, collaborating to reduce or eliminate the chasm. Y'all like my AI image there, chasm? I had fun with that. But yeah, you want to make sure that you eliminate gaps in emergency response. How do your two areas overlap, but how do they leave a gap? Inefficient resource planning. Are you both doing the same thing, just in different ways? Are you both spending money and time and resources to do that? Disconnected networks. Physical networks to think about utility-wise. Are they disconnected? Could they be connected? Or again, is there overlap where there doesn't need to be, i.e. unnecessary redundancy? Redundancy is generally good overall, but if it's on both sides and you're both having to keep it up, could maybe eliminate that.
So that's all we had. We're happy to take questions. Also interested to hear if anyone has an experience that went well or went poorly. If it went poorly, you don't have to share what went wrong, but other than that,
Thank you.
thank you. All right.
No questions? Okay. Thank you.
All right, thanks again.
Oh, yes, please.
Question earlier about so you guys mentioned using cameras and cameras earlier for site surveillance, and you're talking about using that to basically profile specific people that might be on suspicious behavior and stuff like that. I guess have you guys engaged with that technology, or were you just suggesting as a use case for AI?
So we have not engaged in that specific technology. That's a use case. But I will tell you, part of our BRICS platform that I mentioned with the utility, we do have another model as a service in there that is looking at PPE usage for construction sites. So again, it's able to use static imagery or video feeds. So if someone's walking around the construction site, it can see if they have a hard hat on, because it's been trained to know to look for that. It can see if they have their gloves, their safety vest, their correct footwear, their whatever your PPE for that particular place might be. So very similar to that, just different vein. I'm sorry, I didn't repeat the question either. So, oh well. Yeah.
I've had a good experience between multiple Parks and Rec departments in my area and Department of Transportation through OpenStreetMap. Have y'all investigated using that as a method of collaboration across different geospatial for things that you can't share that's visible?
Have we utilized OpenStreetMap?
Yeah.
Is that?
Thought about that as an option to share.
Yes. Short answer, yes. I'll defer to Scott for a minute, but I think OpenStreetMap as itself is that open source sharing, so not just entity sharing, but anybody can put their information on there. I know I used to work for an entity where people would track their trails, and they would put the trails on the OpenStreetMap. Have you had any experience with that?
Not in these 18 months, but I have before. I'd be interested to see if, I don't manage this project, but we have one called the National Capital Region Geospatial Data Exchange, which is a lot of words. It's in Northern Virginia and Southern Maryland. I'd have to look and see if they're using OpenStreetMap for anything.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So, thanks for the question.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
All right, thanks everyone.